Welcome to this week's Movie Math, where it seems Apes have inherited the box office, or at least what's left of it. Yes, the summer 2014 box office continues to be a total bummer, once more down around 20% from the same time last year, as all three new releases underperformed. We're getting plenty of apocalyptic predictions from the industry trades and Jeffrey Katzenberg, which has led Rupert Murdoch to try and stockpile goods, and everyone said he was crazy. So how bad was it? Let the autopsy begin. As I mentioned, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was able to fend off the competition, holding on to the #1 spot for its second weekend, with a 50% drop, almost exactly the same hold that Rise enjoyed. And this sequel is currently $30 million ahead of Rise domestically. That's pretty nice, and Dawn has yet to begin its foreign release schedule in earnest as it was waiting out the World Cup. But it's now that the box office starts to head south, as we find our three new releases log-jammed behind Apes. While The Purge Anarchy was actually the #1 movie on Friday, like The Purge itself, the excitement seemed to only last a single night, and therefore Apes pulled ahead on Saturday and Sunday. The Purge Anarchy still opened with a solid $28 million, far more than other horror films this year like Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, Oculus, and Deliver Us from Evil. But the problem is that the first Purge opened with $34 million just last year, meaning that this franchise hopeful isn't building a fan base. Instead, it seems to be leaking. And same time last year, The Conjuring opened with $41 million. Yet you don't even have to have seen both movies to know they're not in the same ballpark. Chalk that last comparison up to wishful Hollywood thinking. And horror producer Jason Blum is probably wishing James Wan hadn't decided to leave the genre, as not only was he behind The Conjuring, but the director also did a great job growing his and Blum's Insidious franchise, from a $13 million opening to a $40 million opening. Still, even though James DeMonaco is clearly no James Wan, he still made his movie for just $9 million, so it's all good. Also, fascinatingly, the audience for The Purge Anarchy skewed slightly female at 52%, and 36% of the audience was Hispanic, which must leave Blum scratching his head as his Latino-targeted marked ones didn't work out. Then, Planes, Fire, and Rescue from direct-to-video factory Disney Toon Studios actually beat out Sex Tape for the third spot. But again, it flew in below expectations, as the first Planes debuted with $22 million. I'd say that How to Train Your Dragon 2 was eating into its audience, but that only made a little under $4 million this weekend. Who'd have ever guessed that Toothless would come to describe this franchise at the box office? Then I sure hope Sex Tape likes to be on the bottom, because there it is, lying down at #4, with just $15 million. As I noted in my review, Sex Tape hoped to capitalize on Bad Teacher, re-teaming Cameron Diaz and Jason Segel with director Jake Kasdan. But that movie opened with double! At least Diaz can lean on her The Other Woman debut, but what does this mean for Segel? His last starring role, 5 Year Engagement, opened even lower, but at least there he could say Emily Blunt was equally to blame. Here with that The Other Woman open, it's all on him. Nick Stoller must be super happy he already decided to see Other People. Then elsewhere in the box office, the rest of the top 10 actually saw some decent holds, as audiences picked at the Hollywood buffet table even though nothing really looked that good. Transformers 4, though, continues to be a juggernaut, closing in on $900 million worldwide in just a month. And while its status as the first $100 million debut of the year has been seriously called into question by the other studios, nobody can deny it will likely be the first and probably one of the very few billion-dollar earners for the year. 22 Jump Street and Maleficent had the best holds in the mere 20s, yet no film this year has been able to reach the $300 million mark domestically. Last year, 4 films did the deed: Catching Fire, Iron Man 3, Frozen, and Despicable Me 2. In the specialty market, audiences are watching Boyhood grow up into a hit. It added about 30 theaters for its second weekend and is closing in fast on the top 10. The Linklater pick also continued to boast a healthy per-theater average and seems set to become yet another memorable film from the director, a la Dazed and Confused, the Before series, and Bernie. Not a bad career, but Linklater had his low points too, something for Zach Braff to keep in mind as he looks at his own box office numbers. Wish I Was Here, Braff's now infamous Kickstarter movie, opened in a little under 70 theaters and delivered a very weak per-theater average. In comparison, his debut directing gig, Garden State, sported much higher per-theater averages, although it did open in fewer theaters. But regardless, in hindsight, it seems likely Braff wishes he was never on Kickstarter. As for this coming weekend, if Scarlett Johansson really does beat Dwayne Johnson at the box office, expect a Black Widow solo movie soon. And that's the weekend box office. I'm Grace Randolph, and we just did some movie math. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll go beyond the trailer for these other top movies.